Are Christians being persecuted by the state of Israel? Tucker Carlson seems to say yes. What is the evidence? Well, I have a friend of mine who is on the ground in Israel most of the time. Right now, he's actually visiting the United States. He's in California. He happens to be in Dr. Sean McDowell's office right now. But Jeff, what do we say to people who try and say that Israel is somehow a worse place to live for Christians and Jews than Muslim countries surrounding them?
Well, I would say go try and live in both and see what you experience. Because honestly, when I go outside as a Christian Jew, I feel wonderfully comfortable at home in Israel. I feel protected. I feel safer. Yeah, okay, so we've had war, we've had missiles flying over our homes, we've had, the walls and windows shaking because of shock waves from the bombs and explosions. But I gotta tell you, just like you said, where do you feel safer, in Israel as a Christian or in Jersey?
Ladies and gentlemen, are Christians disappearing in Israel? Tucker Carlson apparently thinks so. He also thinks that Christians are being mistreated by the state of Israel. Is that true? That Christians can't worship freely. Is Tucker right about that? Are Christians being harassed in Jerusalem? According to Tucker Carlson, they are. And are Christians worse off in Israel than nearby Arab states? Because Tucker seems to think, at least from some of his rhetoric, that, you're much safer in an Arab state as a Christian than you are in the state of Israel. Is any of what he just said true? Really? Is it anecdotal? Is it based on good survey data? What's really the truth? We're going to get to it today with my friend Jeff Morgan, who's been on the program before over a year ago. He was with Jews for Jesus. He started a new ministry, but he actually lives in Israel and can give us an on-the-ground report. Right now, he's in the People's Republic of California, where maybe it's less safe for Christians than in Israel. That's what we're going to talk about today. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the great Jeff Morgan. Jeff, it's always great having you on the program. It's been a little while since we've been together, so to refresh our audience, kind of give us your testimony and what you're doing right now. Go ahead. Take some time, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I'm glad this worked out. I was born and raised in a Jewish family, a secular Jewish family, but very, very strong Jewish identity. So we would go to temple and synagogue. I had my bar mitzvah, went to Jewish summer camp where we wrapped the phylacteries, yarmulke, the prayer shawl, everything, you name it. And when I went to college and left home, I was very insecure. I didn't really want to have anything to do with my Jewish identity, so I decided that I was going to become some sort of, spiritual, enlightened master and overcome all the bullying and insecurity that I had growing up. So I went into New Age practice down in Los Angeles. I was meditating for 20 years. And really trying to find peace that I didn't have in my heart. I was insecure, I was anxious, high anxiety. I was an athlete though, so that really helped kind of divert some of that anxious energy. But no God in my life really, and I was really just trying to seek peace, seek enlightenment, seek those promises that the world offers through success, through certain kind of Eastern techniques and so on and so forth. And to make a long story short, I met my wife in Israel. I lived in Israel for the better part of the last 20 years. And we got married, had 2 children. But I was finding that my practice and my discipline and my meditation were not leading me anywhere positive. In fact, the opposite was the case. I was becoming depressed. I was self-harming. I was feeling impulses to commit suicide. And I was really in a dark place of despair. But I thought that I was doing all the right things to create happiness and success. And one day I took my wife and my kids and I said, we're going to move to California to find some happiness where I grew up. Here I am right now. And come to find out that only a year later after that, I was on the floor wailing in my wife's arms, a complete and total failure, miserable, lost, hopeless, utterly hopeless. And at that moment, Jesus revealed himself to me and my family at the same time, yet separately. We all had our individual experiences related to Jesus separately, day in and day out, about a month and a half. Miraculously brings me back to life through no effort of my own. I was negative, cynical, desperate, and hopeless, and suicidal. Spiritually tormented. I knew something had its grip on me, but I didn't know how to shake it. But Jesus dealt with all of that, turned me into a brand new creation, picked me up on my feet. Now, to be fair, I'm a Jewish guy with no context of Christianity, no context of Jesus. And so when he starts revealing himself to us, meaning through experiences related to him, everywhere I went. I mean, Frank, you look left, right, back, forward, there he was. A book, a show, a billboard, a sign, a feeling, of something happening within me, life welling up that I wasn't taking responsibility for. Weeping tears of joy instead of tears of sorrow. And I realized that the only thing that was new in my life was Jesus. And I thought, this is odd. I'm a Jew. My wife's Jewish, born and raised in Jerusalem. What do I do with this? No context. Are we supposed to get on our knees and say a prayer? Are we supposed to, what if we say something and it doesn't work? And then I'm right back in the depths of despair. And I was really scared to put my faith in Jesus. But because he dealt with the thing that I needed dealt with most, it was my spiritual torment. I felt controlled by a dark spirit that I could not disconnect myself from, that was causing me self-harm and suicidal tendencies. And I knew that something was in control of me other than myself. And when Jesus freed me from that and cut me from that, my hands flew up in the sky and I said, I'm free. Now, I just spent 20 years basing my life on my feelings. This feels right, then it's right. This feels wrong, then it's wrong. And that changed over time. But what I found was that the truth was not found in a concept, it was found in a person. And peace was not found in the absence of something through meditation, it was found in the presence of someone. And so when I found that, I thought, I need to go into scripture and study this because I don't want this to be based on my feelings. I went into scripture and I found prophecy after prophecy, a biblical pattern that points to a pattern that the Jewish people have of being a servant being selected with a specific role. And that specific role, whether it's Moses, David, Abraham, and then what happens after that specific role and prophecy is given, you'll be a great nation, an everlasting kingdom. Moses, you'll deliver your people. The people end up enslaved. They people up in Egypt. They end up persecuted, exiled. The kingdom collapses. And so it's a very similar situation that we're in today. And you see this pattern go through where there's this promise and then this pattern and then fulfillment. And it doesn't happen all at once. And so I'm reading this and discovering Jesus in the Old Testament and how the biblical pattern points directly to him. Prophet like Moses, Jesus appears with the same category as Moses. And I'm like blown away. And this really, really strengthened my faith. I went right into ministry because I was, I was in my mid 40s already. I'm like, I got nothing else to do but to serve you, Lord, because of what you did to me. I don't care how it looks. I don't care if I'm persecuted, which we're going to get into. I want to serve you. And little did I know that not long after that, I'd feel a calling to go back to Israel. And I was like, oh no, I know what you're going to have me do if I go back to Israel. You're going to make me that guy that goes on the streets and tells our Jewish people about Jesus. I don't want to be that guy, but I will, because you died for me. I will live for you and you live so that I can live. And so I went to Israel and, serving with Jews for Jesus for 6 years was really, really great. And I felt God leading me into a new stage, a new chapter, left Jews for Jesus. I'm still on the streets of Israel, sharing the gospel with the Jewish people. I see it on the ground, what life is like for Christians, for Messianic Jews. So we can talk about that as well. But, praise the Lord. My wife, my sons, and I are all Jewish believers in Jesus, first generation.
Wow.
And I've seen some miraculous things, not only to me, but also amongst the Jewish people. And people dear to me as well.
Now, your new ministry is Highway 53. Tell us about that briefly. What is that about?
Right. Well, when I left Jews for Jesus, So Be It was the channel that I created through the grace of God. And because I left Jews for Jesus, I had to leave the channel with them, and which is great because, I had a lot of help also from the staff over there. There were other people in it other than me working on it and working hard on it. And so when I left Jews for Jesus, I had to leave So Be It there. And I thought, well, I'm going to continue doing what I do and just allow myself for a little bit more independence. And so I had to think of a name. And for the ministry, it's not just a YouTube channel, it's an actual donor-funded ministry where I travel the world. I share the gospel with the Jewish people in Israel mainly, but also around the world. And speak at churches about Jewish evangelism, what life is like on the ground in Israel, how to better relate to the Jewish people, and talk to them about the Jewish context of their faith. And so when I was thinking of names, I was like, wow, I don't want something that sounds overly biblical. Like the name that you have for your channels is brilliant, and so it's double meaning and all this stuff. So I thought, well, what would be good? And I thought, well, one of my favorite books is the book of Isaiah because it's so pregnant with messianic prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, Isaiah 43 talks about the highway of our God, make the path straight in the wilderness, and Isaiah 53, the most compelling biblical prophecy about the suffering servant and the servant of God who takes upon the sin of the people. So Highway 53.
Go to YouTube and check out Highway 53. And when we come back from the break, we're going to ask Jeff Morgan about some of these objections. The first one is, are Christians disappearing in Israel? Because Tucker Carlson seems to say that in a recent video. In fact, we'll put his whole video in the show notes so you can see it there. And then we're going to get onto these other objections. What's really going on in Israel, particularly to Christians? Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after the break. Are Christians being persecuted by the state of Israel? Tucker Carlson seems to say yes. What is the evidence? Well, I have a friend of mine who is on the ground in Israel most of the time. Right now, he's actually visiting the United States. He's in California. He happens to be in Dr. Sean McDowell's office right now. And it was very providential because, Jeff, I just texted you 3 or 4 hours ago, and I said, Jeff, I just got this question from a concerned listener, and I want to do a podcast on it. Are you in any way available today? And Lord willing, here you are. What did you just do with Sean? What show did you do with Sean?
Yeah, he told me if I ever came out to the States that he wanted to do a top 10 prophecies fulfilled by Jesus from the Tanakh. And I was like, I'm all in. So I told him I was coming. We set it up and we're getting ready to film, and your message comes through. And both of us sent that voice message back to you.
Yeah.
It's just such great timing. But I'm glad I'm in his office because I can look super smart now.
And that particular show is going to come out probably in June. So keep an eye on Sean McDowell's YouTube channel. Sean has great interviews. He has one with my friend here, Jeff Morgan, coming up. We are talking about some charges that Tucker Carlson has brought against the state of Israel. The first one is that Christians are disappearing in Israel. I don't know why he would say that, but what is the truth of the matter there, Jeff, really on the ground?
Well, it's the opposite. I see it happening. There are about, 200 to 300 Messianic church groups, meaning there's a church where Jew and Gentile, come together and worship the God of Israel, all over the country. So where I live, specifically, I can find 5 congregations to go to whenever I want to. They're open, they're free, the doors are open, people walk in, walk out, and worship the Lord. And many of them are Jewish people. And a lot of Christians that love to live in Israel and support Israel are there as well. So when I was working with Jews for Jesus, we kept a lot of data. And what we see is a regular increase year by year of New Testament orders from curious Jews and of Jews accepting who we believe is the Jewish Messiah and Savior of the world. So we see the actual opposite happening on the ground there.
And the data that I'm looking at says there's about 184,000 Christian citizens in Israel. Is that about right? And it grew in 2024, according to the data I'm looking at.
Yeah, there are a lot of Christians. I don't know the exact numbers on how many Christians live in Israel, but there are a lot. Everywhere I go, I meet some. So, and they're not afraid and they're not being persecuted. They have their places of worship and their places of study. I go to the old city of Jerusalem and share the gospel with my Jewish people there, and you can walk straight in to a Christian church.
That's great.
Doors wide open.
Yeah.
And you walk in there, you have coffee, you sit, talk to people. You can, there's historical teachings there, there's biblical teachings there. And it's called Christ Church, right there in the middle of Old City Jerusalem.
Every time I've been to Jerusalem, I felt safer than I would in an American city.
Yeah.
Because I think the security there is so good. And I think certainly from a tourist perspective, the state of Israel loves Christians. and they want Christians to come to the Holy Land. It's certainly very economically good for Israel. And I think that during wartime, especially, it's a very big strain on the population not to have people coming to the Holy Land. In fact, last time we were there, Jeff, we were there in October, and the peace deal had not been signed yet with Gaza, with Hamas. And we actually had a great time because every place we went, we didn't have to wait anywhere. We had
the whole place to yourself.
We had the whole town of Capernaum to ourselves. We didn't even have to wait to get into the Church of the Nativity down there in Bethlehem. It was actually very nice. Yeah. Obviously, I don't want war to go on, but we were over there during the war, and man, it was great being there.
I agree with that. It's like a kid going to Disneyland with no lines.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
A spiritual Disneyland without all the wokeness, by the way. You can actually go to where Jesus walked. And actually, when you go over there, it's not walk where Jesus walked. It's run where Jesus walked. You want to see everything. Right. So you're on the ground. I see the videos on your YouTube channel, Highway 53. Mm-hmm. You're actually in the Holy Land talking to people about Christianity. And you're saying that Christians are not disappearing. They're increasing in Israel. What about Tucker Carlson's charge that Christians are being mistreated by the state?
Well, that's not accurate at all. This is the thing. Israel is a country with freedom of religion and freedom of religious expression. And even though a lot of religious Jews and some that are involved in the Knesset or the government, they don't like it, but they have a dilemma. We can't be a free society and shut any people group down. So in order to maintain that freedom, they have to allow for freedom of religious expression, not just for Muslims, not just for Buddhist Jews or Hindu Jews or Christians, but for Christians as well. They have to allow that. And I consider myself a Christian, a Jewish Christian, Messianic Jew, Jewish follower of Jesus, whatever you want to call it. I follow, the Jewish Messiah. And so I have full freedom to do that. The fact that some people don't like it, where is that new? You know what I mean? That's not something that's new. It's not something that's Israel based. It's, Jews and Christians have been persecuted in the name of all kinds of things throughout history. So this is not new. And so when we talk about Christians are disappearing, well, maybe there's less in Israel right now because of the current situation, but they're only leaving for their safety. And not because they're being targeted by the government. It's because they're being targeted by the surrounding Arab nations that they're leaving. And so this isn't really we're being persecuted by Israel. They want to be in Israel. I just spoke at a church last night about sharing my testimony on Jewish evangelism. And you know how many Christians are so sad that they can't go to Israel right now? Oh, I want to be there so bad. I want to live there so bad. Why would they want to live there so much if all they would face is persecution? Now, Christians do go to places to live in the face of persecution. But when we use the word persecution, we have to really, like you say, what does that mean, persecution? I was reading a book recently called The Heavenly Man. I don't know if you've read that book, The Heavenly Man, about a Chinese evangelist living in China, horribly tortured, horribly persecuted, put in jail, beaten like crazy, almost to death many, many, many times. And for proclaiming Jesus. There's nothing like that in Israel. And the only tension that I feel when I go out on the streets is simply the discomfort of approaching people that I don't know.
You can get that here, friends.
That's what I'm saying.
You have it here anywhere. Yeah, but the state is not coming down on you. But let me ask you this, Jeff, because I've heard this, and I want to push back a little bit on this and see what your thoughts are.
Yep.
I've been told that in Israel, you can be any kind of Jew you want. The only kind of Jew that you can't really be, that you're looked down upon, is a Messianic Jew. What's your response to that? And are you discriminated against by the state, or is that just kind of a cultural thing where, okay, you can be any kind of Jew, but if you're a Messianic Jew, you're not really a Jew? What's your thought?
Okay, so there's multiple layers to this. So the first one is that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew, no matter what they believe in. But to be fair and to be honest here, there are government implemented, I don't know if they're laws, but they're clauses that if you've converted to another religion, you can't, as a Jew, claim your birthright, which is citizenship in Israel. And many Jewish believers in Jesus have faced this when they come to faith outside Israel and they want to move back to Israel because they feel that calling. And then they're stopped by the government because they say, look, you've given up your Jewish identity. You're no longer Jewish. You've converted into a new religion, which puts aside the ethnic part of Judaism, because when they ask to prove that you're Jewish, they do it ethnically, not religiously. And so there's a lot of tension with regards to what Israel does to prevent, because there are religious Jews in government. And so there is legislation that says that if you're a Jew and you convert to Christianity, you forfeit your rights to become a citizen of Israel freely. So that's real.
But why would that be the case if Judaism is determined ethnically, not by belief system?
Well,
you're still ethnically Jewish, so why would they deny you because now you have a new belief system? You haven't changed your ethnicity.
Right. So then that's where there's another layer here. So being Jewish was an ethnic genealogical descendancy,
right?
That came through the father, and this wasn't a religious identity. This was a people group. And so the descendants of these people were Jews. Now, when we get to the Second Temple period and we get to the destruction of the Second Temple, Jesus comes making messianic claims, doing signs and wonders, fulfilling prophecy. And those that reject him have to formulate a Judaism not only without Messiah yet, but in exile. And so Judaism progresses over time through history in different countries and different cultures. And what they have to do is they have to make a system that preserves Jewish identity. And this became a very deeply religious system with authority given to rabbis instead of the priests and the judges of the day in biblical times, in Second Temple and pre-Second Temple times. And so Judaism not only is ethnic, it starts to become a religion. And then it starts to become law, because religious Judaism has taken certain passages from the Tanakh and made them to fit modern day rabbinic authority. Basically, they say that there's precedents in the Old Testament that rabbis have now authority to interpret scripture and create laws and fences around these laws to maintain Jewish identity. So you have ethnicity, you now have religion. And if you give up the religious aspect, what they basically say is you've given up being Jewish. Now, that doesn't mean that people on the streets think that about me. And many religious Jews say, you're still Jewish. You're misled, but you're still Jewish.
Now, can you be then deported because you're not a Jew according to them anymore, or?
No, because I came to faith after I made Aliyah, which is getting my citizenship in Israel. But I think it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing that a Jew who is born Jewish, raised Jewish, went through, had bar mitzvah, did all this stuff, comes to faith in Jesus, who they believe is the Jewish Messiah, and is rejected, not necessarily from coming to Israel, but from gaining citizenship. So that's a problem.
That is a problem. Okay. But it's not like you're being mistreated at this time because you're a Christian.
Not at all.
By the state. Okay.
Not at all.
A lot more with Jeff Morgan, who lives and works as a Messianic Jew in Israel. We're going to deal with the question, can Christians worship freely in Israel? We're going to cover that, and also, are Christians harassed in Jerusalem? Much more with Jeff Morgan. You're listening to I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist on the American Family Radio Network and other stations around the country. I'm Frank Turek, back after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Dr. Frank Turek is equipping people to think clearly and defend the Christian faith. But understanding it isn't the same as being able to defend it. The Cross-Examine Instructor Academy is a 3-day immersive training experience taught by Frank Turek alongside leading apologists like Greg Kokel, Elisa Childers, Natasha Crane, and Alan Parr. You'll learn to present and defend the evidence for Christianity with clarity, and even get real feedback if you choose to present. It's selective, and registration closes May 15th. Don't stay on the sidelines. Apply now at crossexamine.org.
There are 4 topics that it appears Christians are having trouble dealing with, and even non-Christians. They all begin with the letter I: Israel, Islam, immigration, and identity. We're talking about one of those topics here today, Israel, and we're going to have a roundtable of Christian leaders, Christian pastors on those 4 issues beginning in late May. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but if you want to be a part of that, if you're a Christian leader in a church or even a politician or you're a pastor and you want to be informed as to what that particular program is and how you can join in on the conversation, go to pastorsbrief.com, pastorsbrief.com. Put your email address in there. We're not going to give your email address to anyone else. When we have the details in place, we will send you an email and you can be a part of the conversation on those 4 topics: Israel, Islam, immigration, and identity. We're talking now to my friend Jeff Morgan of Highway 53. Go to the YouTube channel, Highway 53, also a website, and you can see the great work he's doing on the ground, Jewish evangelism. He's ethnically was born a Jew and became a Christian, and does street evangelism all over Israel. So he would know if Christians can worship freely or not there in Israel. Tucker Carlson says, oh, you really can't worship freely. What do you say, Jeff Morgan?
I say come and live here for a while. And you'll find that you'll have plenty of churches to go to, Tucker. So, is the government policy targeting Christians? Christians are free to worship, they're free to gather, they're free to evangelize, and that's extremely different from what you see in much of the surrounding regions. So it doesn't mean that everything's perfect, though. I want to just be clear with that. But it's not state persecution. I get all kinds of hostility, but I'd get that if I went out to Huntington Beach and shared the gospel. So it's not an Israel or a government issue. It's simply people that just disagree with your conclusions.
We have that here. Of course,
Yeah.
it's not state-sponsored harassment.
Nope.
It's that people will harass you no matter where you are. But Tucker Carlson, I've noticed as I've studied this a little bit, Jeff, that Tucker here is using anecdotes rather than data. Because in a video that we will put in the show notes, he's interviewing a Christian priest who is talking about anecdotally, he's been spat on in Jerusalem. Okay.
Yeah.
That happens here in America too. Does that mean we don't have freedom of religion? Does that mean you don't have freedom of religion? So anecdotes are not to be generalized to the entire population or to the state. Anecdotes are anecdotes.
Yep.
You need survey data. You need legislation. You got to look at legislation to see if someone is being persecuted or is having their freedom of religion somehow interfered with. You got churches all over Israel, as you say. People can evangelize. People can worship, come and go freely.
There is a law. There is a law against trying to bring a minor to faith in Jesus.
A minor, okay.
Yeah, a minor, and we just respect that.
Does that same law apply to Muslims trying to bring a minor to Islam?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But just to be clear, also, I've seen the spitting. I've been harassed. This was really scary. I had bread thrown at me once.
Bread?
Yeah. Ooh. I almost had to go to the hospital.
Was it stale bread? Was it hot? Was it hard?
It was manna from heaven. I just didn't catch it and put it in my mouth. But honestly, if I talk to 100 people, I'll experience that by maybe 5. Mm-hmm. And so let me tell you about the 95 other conversations that I had that were unbelievably warm, welcoming, ended with a hug. Some people took the New Testament. Some people, I've never heard that before. Some people, wow, Jesus was one of us. He was a Jew. Wow. This is the normal interactions I find that the Israeli people are wonderful, warm, and open to this. And you have these fringe groups, like everywhere else, that will target the parading around of crosses with Christians. And, sometimes groups will come and they'll be in these very religious Orthodox areas, walking out with a cross, and their intentions are good. But the reaction from the Jewish people has to be understood in the context of anti-Semitism and historical persecution by the church in the name of Jesus.
Now, I've noticed, oh, sorry, go ahead, complete.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that there is a conditioning that's happened within the Jewish people that automatically pushes back against Christians coming in and parading the cross around and trying to get Jews to leave their Judaism to become Christians, which is the opposite of what actually happens, right? So when a Jewish person becomes a follower of Jesus, they're not leaving anything. They're accepting the promises of God that he made to Israel, where Jesus says, I've come only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He came for the Jewish people. They're accepting Messiah, staying within Jewish culture. Wow, for 130 years or 100 and so years after Jesus came and thousands of Jews put their faith in Jesus, they're still going to synagogue until they got kicked out by other Jews. Mm. And so this is the history of our people. And so me becoming a Christian really is coming into the fullness of the promises of God for the Jewish people. And the Gentile word, the Gentile word are coming in and invited into the promises of God. And so when we can textualize it and contextualize it in such a way, we can really talk to the Jewish people from a perspective that sounds more like home to them instead of leaving home.
Mm. It's been said, it's been claimed falsely that Israel is an apartheid state. You hear this all the time, particularly from the left. It, in my experience, is exactly the opposite. What is your view of this?
Well, I guess you'd have to redefine apartheid because where I go, and who is the apartheid against?
Yeah,
is it against Arabs?
That's what they'll try and say. I know that's not true, but go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I drop my son off at kindergarten, and the caretakers there are Arab. When I go to the dentist and the person that's putting my braces on my oldest son and taking them off is Arab, very intelligent people that have full rights in the country of Israel. When the Arabs are building my homes in the neighborhood and doing amazing work, I'm sorry, I don't know what apartheid means if Israel's an apartheid state.
And there are mosques everywhere. I've been there.
And Frank, you know what I hear? Mm-hmm. Out my window, sometimes at 4 a.m, the Muslim prayers coming from the neighboring village. I'm sorry, but there's absolute freedom of religion and religious expression. So either you're redefining apartheid for a specific political goal, or you just simply don't understand what the word means.
20% of the people in Israel, ladies and gentlemen, are Arabs.
Arab Israeli citizens.
Yes, they're citizens. Right. They vote. There are Muslims in the Knesset. There's a Muslim, at least there was, I don't know if he's still there, but there's a Muslim on the Jewish or the Israel Supreme Court. I don't know where people come up with this. There is an apartheid state, ladies and gentlemen. It's the apartheid states around Israel that don't permit Christians or Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to support, what happened on October 7th and to support Hamas and to say that, yeah, we love them and they're freedom fighters, you can't go there. You can't even live there. Mm. If I went there, I'd be killed immediately. But if one of them came to Israel and said, I really want to live here, I want asylum, I want to get out of there, I want to live here, obviously during this time, it would be difficult. But there is a process for an Arab to come and to be able to come out of countries that they don't want to live in anymore and be a free citizen in Israel, where the treatment is phenomenal. The pharmacists are Arab, and they provide an amazing service to the country. It's like a lot of the big professions in Israel are filled with Arabs, and honestly, Jesus taught us to not only love those that are easy to love, but to love our enemies. And I don't see the guys that are building the house across the street from me as enemies. I see them as human beings, image bearers of God. I go out and hang out with them, talk with them. They charge my car if I need to. I bring them cookies and milk, and not milk, but water if they need it. And we have a friendship. Now, is it authentic on their side? I don't know. But I don't care, because I want to show the love of Christ no matter what. And I keep my focus there, Frank, so I don't get distracted by all these Tucker Carlsons and all the things that's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's sad when people make these bald claims based on anecdotes rather than evidence. And Tucker should know better. I mean, he's a smart man. Yeah. For him to come out and say these things without evidence, only anecdotes, is not helpful. And it misleads a lot of people. I don't know what his MO is here, but he's not telling the truth about these issues. Another claim, Christians are harassed in Jerusalem. I guess we kind of covered that. Yeah, sometimes people are harassed everywhere, but it's not state-sponsored harassment.
No, I mean, I go to Jerusalem freely. I travel all over the country. I go to Jerusalem. I go to Capernaum. I go to, the Sea of Galilee, all over the Sea of Galilee. I go to Tel Aviv. I go to, surrounding cities. I'm free to go in, free to set up my microphone and my camera, free to talk to people. And the fact that somebody objects doesn't say anything about government-sponsored persecution. That has nothing to do with it, And so I'm in Jerusalem regularly, and in fact, I'm most recognized in Jerusalem. Now, does that mean that one day someone won't throw a rock at me? Dude, people are killed for sharing the gospel all the time. People are killed, for all kinds of things.
Charlie Kirk was shot here because...
I was just going to say that, and so you don't see that kind of stuff happening to Christians in Israel. The fact that there's a religious group, a fringe group that comes out, maybe yells a little bit, spits on the ground when they're passing Christians, it's a whole nother story. And from that perspective, you actually have to, if you look through the history of Christian persecution of Jews in the name of Jesus, which isn't really Christian, you can understand the conditioning. You can understand the knee-jerk reaction. I was at church one day, and I came out of church, this is in Israel, and these young kids were just passing by. And they said, "What is this place?" I said, "This is a church." They're like, "What, Christians?" I said, "Yeah, we worship Jesus here." He went, "Pfft." It was just like normal. And then we're like, we continue the conversation. Like, I was like, that's kind of disrespectful. He's like, I'm sorry. But he couldn't help it, right? So this is just generational conditioning that I think through an understanding of Jewish history, an understanding of Jewish life, an understanding why Jews push the gospel away, and why they do that, really helps in understanding why they react the way they react, and also to treat them with loving kindness, because it doesn't help to rise up against them. It doesn't help at all.
Are Christians worse off in Israel than other Arab states? We'll cover that with Jeff Morgan, my guest here today. I also want to mention that next week, Tuesday, we will be at the University of New Mexico. We'll talk about if God, why evil, and take your questions. And then the next night, we're going to be at Calvary Chapel in Albuquerque. I'll be speaking there Wednesday night. My friend Skip Heitzig is the pastor there. We've got a lot more with my friend Jeff Morgan of Highway 53 on YouTube. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in a minute. Are Christians being persecuted in Israel by the state? We've dealt with much of that already. I have a guest with me, Jeff Morgan, who lives in Israel, is a Messianic Jew. He happens to be in California right now. But we're going to also ask the question, how are Christians treated in Israel versus, say, Muslim countries? Because Tucker Carlson seems to indicate that he thinks Christians are treated better in Muslim countries than in Israel. Before we get into that, I want to point out that the difference in the size of Israel to the bordering countries around them are 95 times bigger. In other words, when you look at Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, just those four countries, in terms of land mass, they're 95 times larger than Israel. And the combined population is 19 times larger than the population of Israel. Yet, Jeff, according to leftists over here, Israel needs to give land to these Muslim countries in order to have peace. What do you say to that?
I don't understand it. It's a bit ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's like, how much land do you have to give up before the reality comes to light of, we just don't want Jews around us. That's really the bottom line. And that's historical. It goes back. I mean, I can understand, 1948, a massive Jewish population comes into the land of Israel. They were there before, and they're coming home. But when you're gone for a long time and the current population gets comfortable, the population that comes back in isn't always accepted. And we have to take that tension and understand that that's a real tension that happens. I mean, when you look at when Mahatma Gandhi was doing his traveling around the world trying to unite the people, you had war between the two different Muslim groups. What were they called? The two different groups, the Sunnis.
The Sunnis and the Shia?
And the Shia. Yeah, you had these two, and they had to actually create two separate countries so that these people wouldn't kill each other.
Pakistan and India. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what we're seeing today is a people group that doesn't want to live with another people group, and a people group that wants to live in peace with the other people group, which you can actually see that coming to life in Israel, right? You have Muslims and Jews living together in relative harmony together. Now there's tension, yeah, but we live in relative peace. A lot of the stuff comes from the outside in, not from within Israel necessarily, but from the outside in. And so Israel is smaller than the state of New Jersey.
It's prettier though, I can tell you that.
Absolutely. You have, well, there's some suburbs in Jersey that are pretty cool.
Oh, no, I live there, but I grew up, but Israel's beautiful. Come on.
Yeah. And you have a population of around 10 million people in Israel. 7 million of them are Jews. You have about 17 million Jews worldwide. Do you know how insignificant and small that is? It's biblical, but it's still tiny. It's so tiny. And we have to give up more land, and we have to leave, and we have to, God is bringing the Jewish people back to Israel. That's a fact. It's biblical. It'll happen whether you like it or not, whether you resist it or not. It has to happen because God's plans are coming to fruition. That's why you go to Israel and you see all of these high rises being built to accommodate for the immigration of Israelis from around the world that are experiencing persecution in their own countries. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go to live? So when the Jews that experienced the Holocaust, that were saved from the death camps, where were they going to go if they wanted to live? The only place they could go was Israel. And in many cases, we see there's war happening in Ukraine. And what happens? 40,000 Jews come to Israel to escape the war. Okay, there's an influx of 40,000 Jews within a short period of time. Anti-Semitism is popping up all over the Europe and the United States, especially in Europe where the Muslim communities are growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Jews are leaving and coming back to it. Where are we going to go? How much more do we have to give up in order to live in peace? It's not about that. You think that if we gave up the entire land of Israel, that anti-Semitism would stop? Of course it wouldn't. That's not the solution to the problem of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, the people need to read the Hamas Charter. If you haven't read the Hamas Charter, consider yourself undereducated because you can't have an opinion on this without being informed. Hamas in the Charter says that what they want to do is kill all Jews and take all the land. They want to kill all Jews. They want to commit genocide. And too often it's projected on Israel that Israel's committing genocide when in fact, it's Hamas that has it in their charter to commit genocide. That's what they want to do. It's just part of what's been going on for 1,400 years, ladies and gentlemen. This is Islam following their texts. They want to destroy the Jews and the Christians, by the way. And it's been put this way. If Hamas were to lay down their weapons, there would be no more war. If Israel were to lay down their weapons, there would be no more Israel. Sorry, you don't like that? That's just the truth.
Correct.
That's what's going on.
I'd like to make a point about what's happening in war right now and the moral values of the Israeli army. The Israelis they must care for a wounded enemy. So let's say that the Israelis are going into Gaza and they wound someone and the person is there dying. They actually are required to take care of that person. Who does that? War is war. It's ugly. It's gross. There's no real winner in war, right? Everybody's losing until this thing gets settled. And but the Israeli army has a moral code that is so much higher than any other army in the world. And even if you have an Arab who's dying and an Israeli who's injured but less injured than the Muslim, they have to take care of the Arab first and then take care of the Jew. That is the heart of the Jewish people. They're a people of life. They believe in life. They want peace, and they want to be able to live in and amongst the Arabs in peace. They want that.
Although I think both you and I, being conservative Christians, would say that the Israeli government is sometimes far too liberal. For example, the Israeli government permits abortion. It permits same-sex marriage, right? We would go over there and say, hey, you're going too far here. In Gaza, they'll throw gays off of buildings. Right. This is why it's lunacy when you have gays for Gaza. This is all critical theory, obviously, that these people over here are saying that LGBTQ people ought to side with Hamas because they're considered both oppressed groups. This is the lunacy of critical theory. Yet Hamas would murder the LGBTQ people if they had the ability to do so, if they had access to these folks. So correct. We would say that we don't have to agree with everything the Israeli government does, and we shouldn't. If you're going to bless people, you don't agree with them when they're doing evil. You correct them. That's what blessing means. But Jeff, what do we say to people who try and say that Israel is somehow a worse place to live for Christians and Jews than Muslim countries surrounding them?
Well, I would say go try and live in both and see what you experience. Because honestly, when I go outside as a Christian Jew, I feel wonderfully comfortable at home in Israel. I feel protected. I feel safer. Yeah, okay, so we've had war, we've had missiles flying over our homes, we've had, the walls and windows shaking because of shock waves from the bombs and explosions. But I got to tell you, just like you said, where do you feel safer, in Israel as a Christian or in Jersey? And if you go and try your luck in these Arab countries as a proclaiming Christian, let me tell you, you'll run to Israel. You'll run to Israel.
And you as an ethnic Jew can't go there, can you? Can you go to Saudi Arabia?
I'd have to use my American passport and not and keep my identity, Israeli identity, secret.
You'd have to keep it secret.
If I wasn't an American citizen, I don't think I'd be able to go there.
And when you go to Israel, ladies and gentlemen, they do not stamp your passport. They stamp a piece of paper that you can take out of your passport, because if they see that you've been to Israel, when you go to a Muslim country, they'll give you trouble. So, I mean, these are just the facts. People that travel over there know this, and Tucker Carlson should know this as well. But somehow he uses anecdotes to broad brush everybody. That's a fallacy known as a hasty generalization, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know what a population or a government thinks about a particular issue, you got to get data, not just anecdotes. And that's what this whole case that Tucker Carlson is trying to build against Israel is about. It's about anecdotal evidence that you can find anywhere. You can find hatred for Jews and Christians anywhere. It's not state sanctioned by the Israeli government. Although, as we mentioned earlier in the program, there are things about the Israeli government that we don't agree with, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And you don't have to agree with Israel. You don't have to agree with the Israeli government. Yeah. But I want to make the point about Jesus and his approach was not to condemn an entire people group. It was to direct his attention to hypocrites, to those that their internal world was different from their external world. And he addressed that. So when you see in the Bible the Jews, he's not addressing the entire Jewish population. Jesus was a Jew, his disciples were Jewish, followers were Jewish, thousands of Jewish followers in the first century alone, coming to faith in the Jewish Messiah. And all this, you see, people look at the Bible and they look at, if you read the book of Isaiah, right off the bat in chapter 1. You can't get through chapter 1 without seeing how Israel is condemned with words that are much more vicious than what you see in the New Testament. And you would never say that the Old Testament is anti-Semitic. You would never say that, oh, there you go, Isaiah hates the Jews. No, because he was pointing something out that God was doing through him. And when you see Jesus confronting the spiritual leaders of the time, he's doing the same thing from within Judaism to his Jewish people. So he's not condemning the Jews, but yet you have modern Christians today doing something that Jesus never did himself.
Well said. Hey, what is your website, Jeff? Because we're about out of time. We got to have you on again to talk more about Jewish evangelism. But what's the website?
The website is Highway 53, the word highway, the number is 53.org, and my YouTube channel, Highway 53.
If you can support Jeff over there on the ground in Israel, please do so. He started his own ministry now. It's highway53.org. Go there. Jeff, thanks for fitting us in on short notice and bringing clarity to this issue.
My pleasure, Frank. Come to Israel.
Jeff Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have him on again to talk about evangelism to our Jewish friends. Don't go anywhere. Come back here next time. God bless.
Dr. Frank Turek is equipping people to think clearly about faith, truth, and today's toughest cultural issues. This is just the starting point. If you're ready to go deeper, explore Cross-Examined online courses at crossexamined.org. If you're looking for solid answers to life's biggest questions, don't miss the latest episode of I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, OnePlace, and Podchaser. Tune in, discover the truth, and share it with someone who needs it. Let's keep spreading the truth together.